As you know, we are live at the World Economic Forum in Davos with some leaders of the world's biggest companies, literally, including Coca-Cola CEO James Quincey. Spoke with us earlier about the global economy as well as the soft drink business.
I think there's a difference between a downturn and less growth. I think we're in the phase of 2019 where we're likely to see a little less growth or a little less tailwind. I'm not sure I'd go as far to say it was a headwind. So I think it is going to be a slightly tougher year than 2018 in macroeconomic terms, and I think we just need to work our way through it. I think the cost pass-through of some of the commodities increase has largely happened, although there are cost pressures out there. So I think it's a little less tailwind rather than a new headwind. I feel a degree of uncertainty out there that you can't quite put your finger on, so I think it's making people
Is that uncertainty everywhere for you, or are you thinking about a specific spot on the globe where you think it's going to be harder hit?
No, I think the uncertainty is actually kind of global rather than it's one region. And actually, in the modern global economy, something that goes wrong in a major piece here transmits itself around the world. So I think there's been a lot of volatility in some of the developing countries over the last few years. And so we see that continuing. But I think there's just a little cloud of uncertainty over the growth forecast. I think we all hope that they will focus on making the trade terms better rather than walking back. I mean, no trade deal out there in the world was perfect. They can all be improved, and let's hope that that's where the agenda ends up. For us, the effect is ultimately slightly indirect because the Coke business is both global and incredibly local. In any country in the world, 95% plus of what you drink was actually made in that country. So all the Cokes in China are made in China, and all the Cokes in the US are made in the US.
The other interesting thing we talked about with James Quincey was just this idea of consumer taste changing so rapidly, because what they're doing is making lots of purchases. I think 6 acquisitions of new products like Costa Coffee and other things that they're doing, but they're also trying to get rid of what they call zombie brands, 125 that they've identified just in the Middle East and Asia, or in Middle East and Africa. And those are brands that are really not up to snuff, aren't making the speed. So they're constantly cycling through this and trying to change the lineup.
They're still there, but they're basically dead. They're zombies.
No, but I have to say he's really picked up steam in terms of shifting the portfolio balance in a way that for many years they did not.
I don't think they can do it.
And there were a lot of investors who were pushing them to do this.
Where do you do? Well, I don't. You can. That was my point. You can only add so many fad, millennial, niche. I don't know, whatever happens to be in vogue, and they're never going to be huge. You add them all up, or do you try to stay huge?
No, but that's the conundrum. The conundrum is to be huge.
How do you choose?
No, to be huge, you're going to have to be niche because it's no.
It's by the way, this is a centralized market.
This is like the media business. It's like everybody has their own specific interest in there, and I don't know if it's millennials liking this or that, but Costa puts them now in the coffee business against the Starbucks piece, which of course was always aligned with Pepsi. I mean, they're always
But when I talked about how we drink a lot of a certain brand of flavored seltzer, and it's not owned by Coke. They have that brand, but they need the shelf space where I happen to go in, where I
Absolutely.
shop. And there's none of the Coke products. I would drink a flavored seltzer made by Coke, but it's going to take advertising, it's going to take marketing, it's going to take shelf space. And there's so many. If it's so fragmented, how do you get shelf space at it?
Well, but you have two problems.
So you can throw your weight.
You have the shelf space, and the branding thing is the big one because you can't. There's a margin issue, which is if you're going to, you have to. Historically, they've spent a lot of money on one brand or two brands.
See,
Sprite,
with you,
Coca-Cola.
I know how to market. I would do some kind of social, virtuous thing that would, I don't know, something the bottles obviously
that would catch my interest.
Well, yeah, wouldn't it? I do glass in a bag.